According to the anti-gun violence nonprofit group Everytown for Gun Safety, check out these statistics. There have been 96 incidents of gunfire on U.S. school grounds, resulting in 40 deaths and 78 injuries. This was all this year alone.
And here to discuss these disturbing statistics is U.S. Secretary of Education, Dr. Miguel Cardona. Welcome, Secretary Cardona, again to the program. We always appreciate your time here. We obviously had the big bipartisan announcement from senators yesterday that there is apparently a deal on gun legislation. It doesn't include everything that Democrats and President Biden wanted, but it does involve mental health funding, initiatives for new state red flag laws. Are you confident that this legislation as it stands will actually do what it's intended to do, prevent gun violence in schools?
Well, look, first of all, I'm pleased that this step was taken. I think Americans across the country wanted sensible communication, bipartisan communication around what we can do to protect our children. We're talking about the safety of our children. So I do think it's a right step, and I do think that it can help reduce access to guns and to assault-style weapons for people that shouldn't have them, quite frankly. And it will contribute to safer school environments. We need to continue to do more, but I do believe this is a very good step in the right direction. And I'm pleased with my Democrat and Republican senators who work together on this.
Are they consulting you, Secretary Cardona, about this legislation, which still needs to be drafted, but part of what's come out is that they are going to allow funding to bolster school safety? Can you tell us what that possibly means and if they are asking for your input?
Yes, they are, and I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that the Department of Education is being consulted to make sure that we share the perspective of what we're hearing from educators across the country. So in terms of bolstering safety in our schools, we need to make sure that our environments are as conducive to a safe learning environment while welcoming to families. But there are some very common sense measures we can take as educators, as school leaders, to make sure that our environments are as safe as possible. And improved communication so that all stakeholders in the school know how to keep students safe if an unfortunate event happens on campus.
As you are so aware, teachers have to add so much to their plate in these unfortunate times, and there have been some Republican leaders who have suggested that a part of some of the solutions to this gun violence is to actually arm teachers. And I'm going to quote you here. You said to that idea, "That is some of the stupidest proposals I've heard in all my time as an educator."
Yeah.
What would you say to those who believe that is part of the answer?
Well, I meant that. It's frustrating how, at a time where our educators are being asked to do so much more, that we think that that's a viable solution. It clearly shows people don't talk to educators when they come up with these proposals. And I can list a number of reasons why that is actually less safe. So for me, it's really about making sure we're listening to our educators, doing sensible legislation to protect our communities. It's not only schools. We're not going to be arming every cashier in our supermarkets, every faith leader in our churches. We need to be sensible. Safe campuses are critically important. As a father, there's nothing more important to me. So I think we need to be sensible, but outlandish proposals that do more to get people to the spotlight, I think, just hurt the conversations.
Yeah, Ohio, of course, the latest. They just passed legislation that is going to allow teachers to actually carry guns with just 24 hours of training. I think the governor is waiting to sign that. I know that's something you're against. You're against teachers having the guns in schools, but are you opposed to more guns in schools? And by that, I mean more police officers, more resource officers. Are you opposed? Do you think it's a good idea still to have the trained folks and possibly more armed folks, security people in schools?
Look, I'm all for making sure we're thinking outside of the box. Clearly, it's a different era right now where we have to be thinking about these things. I would have said the same thing 10 years ago, TJ. I was a principal during the Sandy Hook massacre. So it's time that we do continue these conversations in a bipartisan way. And it does mean that we have to think about our public spaces differently and make sure that our students and our those who go to different synagogues or churches are protected. So I'm not opposed to different strategies that provide more protection in our schools, but I'm not in favor of something that I think could create a more dangerous environment for our students and for our educators.
And can you tell us, Secretary Cardona, I know the announcement coming that $1.5 million going to Uvalde in emergency funding. How is that money going to be used, or is it just going to be handed over and they can use it how they see fit?
Well, look, when I visited Uvalde, I spoke to the superintendent there and the principal of the school, of Robb Elementary School, the teachers that were there, and they know what their community needs. They know that the impact of this event, this tragic event, will be long-lasting. And I was pleased to hear the interest they have in providing long-term social emotional support, mental health support for the families, for the community. And this is something that I think is critically important, that Uvalde knows the Department of Education stands with them, not only now in this announcement of Project Serve grants, $1.5 million, but in the long term. We're going to be there for them because they're going to need long-term support.
They certainly are going to indeed. Secretary of Education, Dr. Miguel Cardona, thank you so much for being with us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.